In the mash tun here, now we've started to drain a few litres of the wort off. The grain bed has settled down and it's sort of a nice even sort of surface. Like I said before, that acts as a filter, so when you're sparging and tipping your water onto the top of the bed to rinse, you don't want to disturb that grain bed, you want to leave it where it is. So you don't stir it, don't shake it around or anything, just let the water, the liquid just filter down in its own time. The sparge process should take a long time. For about 25 litres of water here, you want to take at least 10 to 15 minutes to sort of drain all your water off. Not disturbing there. No, the water's good because it all just whoosh and then whooshes. You just don't want to stir it about. Alright. We're just going to raise the inner bucket in the mash tun, which brings the false bottom a little bit higher, and that will just allow the last of the water to drain through the bed there, so we get all the goodness out of what we want. Yeah. There's a couple of sticks under, and that's it. A bit of a tilt, but not too much because there's a bit of rubbish in the bottom here that we don't really want. Okay, now we've got our wort. We're going to transfer into a couple of pans. Ideally you'd have one big one on a big stove, but we don't, so we've got two. It doesn't really matter because once you've finished the boil process, you just mix it back together in a big tub and it will just blend in together and equal itself out. One of the purposes of the boil process here is to sort of bring the temperature up and kill any nasties or bugs in there that might affect the ferment. And the other thing is we'll add some grains and we'll add some hops, and that will impart some more flavours, colour and things like that. So yes, we'll now just put it in the pans. Right, the next stage in the process is boiling of the wort. And basically we've got a couple of burners here and we're going to get them up to temperature, and then basically once they are, you want them on that just gentle sort of rolling boil, just on a simmer, and we're going to boil our wort for an hour. And into this process we're going to add some grains. We've got the chocolate grain and the black malt grain there, and again that imparts the flavours of those grains and the colour, which is what we're looking for the style of beer with a porter. And what we're also going to do at the beginning here is add some Pride of Ringwood, Australian hops, and the main purpose of these hops is for the bittering process. They'll also give some aroma and flavour as well, but they've got a really high, or a relatively high alpha content and acidity content, and that's the bittering part of the beer. So that's what we're going to do now. Right, the boil process is now finished after an hour, and that's extracted all the colours and the flavours out of the grain and the hops that we put in there. And what we're going to do now, we're just going to filter it through our sort of sieve into a clean bucket, and that will get rid of all the main hop sort of body and all the grains that we put in there, and that will give us a clean liquid ready to cool down for fermentation. filtered wort is then transferred to a suitable fermenting vessel and then allowed to cool to room temperature, sort of ideally under 30 degrees, around about 25, otherwise too hot. When you pitch the yeast in, it'll kill the yeast, and then that'll start the fermentation. The final part of the process is to pitch in the yeast into the fermenting vessel with the wort in. In this case we're using a brewer's yeast, a beer yeast. It's actually an English ale yeast. And all you do is sprinkle it over the top of the wort and give it a good stir into your brewing. And basically this also helps aerate the brew a little bit, gets the yeast going. And what the yeast is going to do is convert all the sugars that we've extracted from our grains in there and turn them in to alcohol, basically ethanol and CO2 gas. So once we've stirred that in, we then put the lid on, which has an airlock, and that has two sort of purposes. Basically, one, the lid will stop oxygen getting into your beer, stop oxidization, and the airlock will let all the gases escape, so you have a CO2 level, and that's it. And in 5 to 7 days, we'll have something that has turned itself into that lovely, lovely thing that we call beer.